Hey, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're in. Welcome to our Smartcat webinar on digital transformation for translation. And today I'm really delighted to have Alison Sapko of Integrated Power Services on this with us, as well as Jean-Luc Sayard, who's Head of Customer Success at Smartcat. And I'm Coleman Murphy, Marketing Manager at Smartcat. We're going to take just a minute while other people show up to give you a little bit of housekeeping tips, and then we'll get going with the actual slides and the case study from Alison. So on the bottom of your screen, if you just want to move your mouse down, you'll see you have a few options. One is chat and one is Q&A. We use chat for kind of informal engagement. So if you want to, in the chat, let us know where you're joining from. That would be fantastic. We will have a roundtable section in this webinar, as well as a Q&A where we will answer your questions. So at any point, you can use the Q&A function to just drop your question into the queue. And the reason why it's important to use Q&A specifically is because those get recorded along with the webinar itself, which is being recorded. And then afterwards, we'll share a transcript of all of the questions with you. So with that, I think we're a few minutes after the hour, so I'm just going to get going. Again, I'm Coleman Murphy. I'm delighted to have Alison Sapko of Learning Operations Supervisor at Integrated Power Services with us, as well as Jean-Luc Sayard from Smartcat. So let's get into the agenda. First up, this is about digital transformation, and there's always the question, why? Why change and why change now? So we'll touch on that a little bit, but really the heart of what we want to cover here is the path to success that Integrated Power Services experienced when they went through this transformation. And as I mentioned, after that, we'll have a roundtable and we'll include a Q&A section where you can ask and get your questions answered. All right, so let's jump forward. Why change? And why change now? When we think about the elephant in the room, for many people right now, that's AI. AI is something or another. AI is going to take our jobs, or AI is making life better, or AI is transforming everything. But truly, for you within global enterprise, there's a different elephant in the room, and that is within your own organization right now. Teams are developing strategies for digital transformation. How can we as an organization incorporate AI into every aspect of our business, whether it's customer service, sales outreach, product development, and of course, learning and development and employee resource development. So for you, you have to be aware that this is not this is not something that you necessarily control. And you do have an option, but you also have a mandate to be part of that transformation. So our goal today is to give you some tools and some context on how you can make yourself part of that transformation within the L&D space, or if you've got an expanded role, perhaps in manufacturing or in marketing, sales, whatever it might be, the same general principles are going to apply. But make no mistake that change is coming to your organization, and you somewhat have you can either be part of that change or you can have the change made for you. So when we talk about the elephant in the room, sure, AI is a big transformational element, but it's really the way that that's now driving digital transformation within your organization is the thing that you really need to be conscious of. So sure, knowing about tools is important, but equally important is figuring out what are the efficiencies that you can gain from digital transformation and AI specifically. Can you do more? Can you do things better? Can you do things faster? Can you do things more affordably? So that leads us to the why now. Every day that goes by, new tools come out, plans move forward, costs are incurred from doing things in a legacy fashion. You have a mandate to do the best that you can for your organization. And one way that you can do it is within the realm of translation, using AI tools like Smartcat to help you do things more cost effectively, do them with greater accuracy, do them faster. And the slide that you see on screen, it's benchmark data that we've pulled together from across over 500 enterprise accounts that we work with. So these are aggregated results. You'll hear from Alison what their numbers are like, but you can safely assume that if you go into any conversation, these are ballpark metrics that you can share, or you can start to build your plans around, or that you can aim towards. So being able to save 75%, 78% of cost compared to an agency, that's a pretty big deal. But for us, and what we hear from clients, and you'll hear it from Alison, is this idea of being able to do more faster and do it with higher quality is really where the biggest value comes in from AI technology in the realm of translation. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alison at Integrated Power Services. Alison, feel free to take it away. And if you need me to advance the slides, just let me know.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I am so happy to be here to share the story of IPS. Hopefully, you can see the IPS screen slide on your screen. And all right. So just to give you some background on IPS, we're in the power services industry. We're a rapidly growing company. We have over 90 locations now, 3,000 plus employees, and we have a diverse workforce across North America, the United Kingdom, and the Caribbean. And we're dedicated to providing an unmatched customer experience. So we were using the legacy agency translation model in the beginning, and some of the core challenges that we identified, the biggest one being the time. For one course, it would take the agency around 4 to 6 months to translate and repackage the course for us, and that was for about $6,000 just for one course. Some of the pain points surrounding that, in addition, lack of collaboration. When we talk about our transition to Smartcat, I'll definitely speak to some of the advantages that Smartcat has over that in terms of collaboration. And a big challenge was just the speed of updates and revisions. As Coleman alluded to, their processes change, business models change, things change. So just making those changes to the courses, again, we're back in that 4 to 6 month loop. And also in the power services industry, it's very challenging to find prepackaged material for the kind of content that we need. So there is a big need for us to develop original content and then to translate that. Because even if we could potentially find that specific course that we're looking for, being able to find it in a course other than English was a whole, new level of challenge for us. So how we did it, we started out with Smartcat. We did a translation of a course. First, we had our subject matter expert review it, just look for the nuances of our terminology, make sure the context and everything was accurate and correct. The subject matter expert was very pleased with the response. So then we began to get even more excited about it. So we talked about determining our scope, and we started speaking with some different partners. So we reached out to initially the marketing team and some other teams within the HR department to see if they would be able to use this tool, if maybe they wanted to partner with us in piloting and putting a business case together. So after a very successful pilot, we did build a business case. We presented it to our senior level management, and we were given the green light to move forward, and we were really excited about that. So we began by creating a glossary just to identify some of the specific terminology that we use in our industry and specific to our company. And then when we had our workspaces set up, we went ahead and created some project templates to try and make Smartcat, which is already very user-friendly in my opinion, just even easier for even the most, technologically noob to navigate. So we created some project templates built in with our glossary. with some translation memories that we had created through the pilot process. And then we just began to, as the word spread about Smartcat throughout our company, we began to recruit and train some language leads in some different departments so that everyone could really use the platform the way they need to use it. So we set up some custom templates for marketing based on the different, workflows that they have and the software that they use. Um, so some non-obvious challenges that we encountered when we were first starting, and Jean-Luc was a big part in helping us problem solve through some of these too. Just workflow refinements. We needed to understand what we needed to do on our end to prepare the material for, translating it through Smartcat. So for us, we're translating courses. We needed to break down those courses and remove the videos and do that separately. And some of the images that we had with graphic overlays, we needed to do things a little bit differently. So just refining our workflow was one of the non-obvious challenges. And I think, the happiest challenge or, the most positive challenge that we faced was really just managing expectations. There was just an enormous positive response from our employees and from, at a corporate level once we were able to show how quickly and easily we were able to, provide translated materials, watching for the scope creep. So our initial scope was a certain set of courses, managing expectations that, it still takes a human element to manage these projects. But we were very excited that SmartCat was so well received and that everyone on the team really just saw the value in it. So some of the positive feedback that we received from the initial pilot, you can see on your screen there are just some screenshot clips of emails that we received. One of the managers said this is a quantum leap. That's a pretty big statement. So, they really saw the value in being able to provide translated training materials to employees. It's excellent news. It's a fantastic, huge win. So some of the big, powerful, impactful results for us with the translation agency model, we could do one course and it would take about 4 months. That shifted to being able to translate about 4 courses in 1 month. So that's huge for us. We also have, identified about a 70% savings on translation costs, increased employee engagement. I mentioned that the response was just so overwhelmingly positive. And actually, in the previous slide, there was an image of a training session being held in Puerto Rico with the Spanish content that we provided. We've also had experiences where training managers will let us know that they were in a room doing training, and there was one person doing the training in English, one person in Ukrainian, one in French, one in Spanish. So, I mean, I think that's amazing. We've also expanded the use company-wide beyond the learning and development team and marketing. We also have different departments and teams and functional areas using it now. And what's next for us? We really are excited about the new Create a Course tool that's available in Smartcat. So we're looking to incorporate that into our workflow. We're also expanding the scope of the courses that we are translating to include some of our foundational corporate courses. And we have a plan for technical course translation, which is a bit more complex. So we're really excited about that. And we just really want to continue to collaborate and expand the use and the adoption of SmartCat across the company. And you can see on your screen there the donut wheel of, so this is overall completions by language just for the month of November so far, just for one course. And this is a course that was accessed via e-learning. So this same course is also uh, transmitted instructor-led. So this represents a small portion of how the course is delivered, but you can already see that there is use for Spanish, French, and Ukrainian, which are the three primary languages that we translate our materials into. So I mentioned briefly just a little bit about our journey. Now we're going to turn it over to the roundtable, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to go into more specific detail.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Alison. That's a great story and a great foundation for taking us to the next section. And as you mentioned, Jean-Luc was instrumental in helping IPS get set up initially. So I'm really happy that Jean-Luc can also join us today. Um, and Jean-Luc, you are without question the most experienced person within Smartcat in working with clients to help them figure out, like, scope their needs, understand what's involved in making this transition from an agency model to an AI model or doing a hybrid approach. So if you're good, I'm going to turn it over to you to help lead this conversation, and let's uncover some more gems and figure out what else people need to know as they consider this. And Jean-Luc, you're currently on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Coleman. Actually, Allison, it's good that you reminded me that we worked together last year when you started using Smartcat. As I told you, I had forgotten, but I speak to so many customers, So, but I'm glad that it has worked out for you well. And I think you mentioned a lot of the factors that when we speak to new customers, they come to us for some of the reasons that you came to us. The high cost of the transition process, and also the long turnaround times, and also what a lot of our customers come to us and they say that also one of the other benefits that they see in using a product like Smartcat is the fact that they have greater transparency over the process. Is it something that's important for you guys as well?
Absolutely. So that's one of the features that I really appreciate. We do use linguists from the marketplace. So just the ability to see, with a graphic display of the percentage, the words that they've actually translated. And we've had linguists who've reached out with questions about some of the more, technical content that we're providing. So to have the transparency to know exactly where your project is, and really to witness the speed with which the project is completed too. I mean, we've worked with some linguists that will give a 5-day deadline and they have it completed within 4 hours. So it's pretty phenomenal.
As a matter of fact, I know that I can tell you, for example, that we started a couple pilot projects also with some of the customers, and the same thing exactly happened. Like, they started a project. I was on the call with them when they started their first project, like probably like we did when you started. And then they invited a couple translators from the marketplace, and we were still on the call, and the translators accepted the assignments already and started working. And our contact was like, she was really surprised. She said, "Look, this will never happen with our previous process." And I'm sure that the experience was very similar for you as well. So.
Absolutely. And a lot in our ability to do 4 courses per month is the marketplace because we're able to assign different linguists to different projects. So we can have multiple projects running at one time. And it really has improved our efficiency immensely.
Mhm. I know you also mentioned that when you started working with Smartcat, uh, we started a pilot with you guys, and then
Mhm.
you built a business case. Could you maybe help like some of the people that might be listening, like what did you include in a business case to make that case to your company that moving to a tool like Smartcat might be used for? What were the components in the business case?
Well, I have to qualify that by saying that there was already identified a huge need for translated material. So it wasn't a tough sell. That we really just showed them the cost savings and the time savings. And those were the two biggest compelling arguments. There were already pain points identified with the agency model. So it was a pretty easy win for us.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good. The also that did you like of course you guys are translating more courses right now because and the courses are going faster. Are you measuring the impact that the faster translation is making on your business? Is this something that internally people are noticing? Is it a clear a factor, for example, in the success of your company, for example, in different markets?
Yeah, so our initial scope of our project revolved around our monthly safety training courses. Safety is the number one priority for us. Our workers are in a very dangerous, high-risk environment. So previously, those courses were only available in English and e-learning. And if there was any instructor-led, we had to have a translator come in, so that was an additional expense. And there was a delay definitely in providing all of the options for safety training in multiple languages. So having Smartcat and being able to translate all of our monthly safety training curriculum has now allowed our employees to go on and do self-paced e-learning modules, or to have group safety training where the facilitator doesn't necessarily need to know how to speak that language, because there are all audio files and all the text and videos are in their language. So it's
Mhm.
made it a lot easier to provide that, crucial safety information to all of our employees.
Mhm. I know that sometimes when we speak with potential customers, they don't necessarily have that, I would say, visibility in the cost of opportunities that there is by not having those courses done very quickly. And courses being one aspect, of course, like, people come to us for marketing material, for other type of content, and they don't necessarily understand that if you have, like, for example, your course is done faster, your market material is done faster, there is obviously a great benefit, and the cost of not doing them that fast is actually great. Like, you want your products to be on the shelves as quickly as possible. You want your team to be trained as quickly as possible. Those are different aspects that sometimes it's a little difficult to convey that concept to users. And I'm guessing you guys on your side, that was pretty clear from the beginning. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And now it's expanded to our talent acquisition team is also using Smartcat. So, that's been instrumental. As part of our growth, we are in Quebec. So being able to provide recruiting materials in French, and being able to provide offer letters, quickly, the competition for talent is high. So being able to engage with those applicants quickly and efficiently has been a big game changer for the talent acquisition team as well.
For sure. And of course, we rolled out some features in Smartcat, which you mentioned, for example, that you were able to use the project templates. This is something that we do try to push as much as we can with our users. When you can add parameters already, you can even set your languages, you can set your glossaries, you can set all your AI settings, even select your team members.
Mhm.
And this is something that sometimes people come to us and they say, well, I'm working with my current vendor. Starting a project is very simple. I just like write an email, I just attach my document, translate this into multiple languages, click on the email. But when we show them how you can create a project in Smartcat in about the same amount of time, probably even faster, by using a project templates, very often it's almost like a new discovery of a different process. So I'm guessing that also those project templates have made a big difference for you guys, making it much simpler to create projects on your site. So.
Absolutely. So when we set up the workspaces, we went through and selected all of the settings for the project templates. So the AI engines that we were going to use, the parameters for when a segment is confirmed. You kind of take all the guesswork out of how do I manage this project effectively? So we built out templates based on the AI that we wanted to use to machine translate, based on when segments would be confirmed, based on the workflow. So the marketing department uses Adobe InDesign. So we added a layout check to their workflow segments. We added a workflow segment for now the video is different now because that's been updated. But when we initially started it, we added a workflow step for the video just to check the subtitles to make sure they were accurate before they were translated. Because that's one thing that we didn't identify. Sometimes the machine translated the English subtitles incorrectly, so we had to go through and fix those. But now that's a different workflow. But Yeah, creating the project templates, I think, has made it a lot easier for everyone to use the workspace. We created a project template for machine translation only, for machine translation with post editing, and that's where you can add in those team members. And we just kind of shared the linguists that we had used as part of the learning and development plan. And, other teams were able to use those linguists as well.
Mm. I think Coleman, you had some questions you want to join the conversation here.
Yeah, I'm sitting here on the edge, and this is really superb information. I'm just thinking a little bit about the bigger picture and how people can get started down this journey. And I was reminded that we did another webinar about a month ago specifically on this topic of, project managing the transformation from an agency to an in-house service using AI. And we'll share a link with everybody after this webinar to that prior webinar where we walk through how do you do project planning, project management. But I'm wondering, are there specific things or suggestions that you can give to people, Alison or Jean-Luc, if they're feeling like, okay, we're working with an agency right now, or we have this legacy process in place, maybe it's in-house, but it's, with volunteers. How do we go about building out, the package to make the pitch so that we can get into 2025 planning and execution? So let's start with you, Alison, if you've got any recommendations there.
My recommendation would definitely be to pilot Smartcat and work with Smartcat employees like Jean-Luc or Daniel, who was our fabulous account manager at the beginning of our journey. And just work through any of the challenges that you feel you might have. And I would say that if becoming your own in-house project manager is a concern, there is the marketplace delivery, which we do have some teams that use that. And it basically, has the Smartcat team serve as the project manager. But I really like to just manage the projects myself because I do like that transparency and being able to, communicate with the linguists if you have a question or if they have a question, and really monitoring the project myself. So do you think that answers your question, or?
Yeah, it was more high level, but what you started with talking about the like getting started with a pilot.
Mhm.
I'm just going to bring up this one of the slides that we had from that previous webinar. Let's go here. This one. Can you see this slide on screen?
Yes.
So this is the model that we had shared in that previous webinar, and I think what you talked about, starting with a pilot, is kind of in the realm here. And I also think with IPS specifically, it sounded like you had a little bit of a leg up where you had identified that it just was not working. Your existing model with your agency was not working. But did you have a mechanism for gathering data around that, and how did that play into the overall conversation and the commitment to move forward with an alternative approach?
Yeah, so really, when I got to IPS, the translation agency model from a learning and development standpoint had already kind of been tried, done, not successful, and it was sort of on pause. So that's really where we were able to identify a tool that we could really quickly deploy and start using and translating materials. So I think just the general attitude towards the pain points that we had just kind of laid the groundwork. And I also have to mention too that our leadership is very supportive of innovation. And they're very excited about the opportunities with AI and how we can use AI to really improve our efficiencies and, manage processes better. So I feel like I was in a really good environment for this to kind of just take off.
I think by the way, it's a common factor. You mentioned that your leadership was very open to like using AI and everything, because
Mhm.
that seems to be sometimes a factor when people come to us is, can we really trust AI for translation? Can we trust, because of course there's a lot of AI built in Smartcat, like we select translators using AI, for example. We do AI, of course, for translation and for QA and things like this, so, and very often we run into this issue, can we really trust AI for a process that's critical, like for example, this transition process? And the answer is, of course, is yes. I mean, this we're definitely big promoters of this, and this has actually proven to be true for you as well, Allison. So
Yeah, and that's why it was really important for us to have a subject matter expert review the course to make sure that the translation was accurate. And then in the pilot, getting that feedback from the employees, from the managers, so that, we could ensure that this is a quality course and everything has come across in translation, everything is accurate. So once we had that assurance, we felt comfortable building a business case and moving forward. And like I mentioned, just the overwhelming positive response to that initial pilot, just we really rode that wave to a company-wide implementation.
yeah, this is actually what we do recommend to people when they start working with Smartcat, like when we approach them for the first time, because I know change is difficult. Like you're working,
Mhm.
like you said, you're working with the vendor, and I told you very often people come to us as like, when I work with the vendor, things are easy, But when we convince them to start a pilot, and they can bring, for example, their linguistic assets, their transition memories, their glossary, and start working in Smartcat, very often they realize that yes, in Smartcat, you need to maybe get involved a little bit more, but it's really not that much more. There's just so much automation built into the platform that it just becomes of your daily routine. It doesn't really impact that much your the work that you have to do compared to your previous model, and you don't have all those pain points that you had in the past. So this is something, but I understand that once again, you need to have the mindset. You need to that may be changing the way that you work. It's not always easy, but we make it easier once they've started to adapt it. We help them get started. Like, for example, like you said, I did when we started,
Mhm.
and people quickly realize that actually it fits very well into their organization, and it fits well into the goals that they established for themselves. So,
Exactly. And I mean, in the cost savings, I mentioned that we have over, a 70% cost savings versus a previous model. And the time to develop courses and translate courses has just accelerated exponentially. So those were the big driving factors for us for sure. And we do have some teams that have team members who are bilingual. So we do have some teams that will do internal post editing. But the previous to that, the person who was bilingual would get a Word doc in English and have to translate the entire thing from scratch. So even that, having the AI translate it first has been a huge, help, especially to teams that operate on that model.
mhm. And you're talking about, for example, some employees who were doing the transition, and you also mentioned talking about the using the marketplace. That's also
Mhm.
another factor that we try to convince people that your main competency is not translation. Your main
Right.
competency is an internal employee, might be in a sales team, in a marketing team, or whatever. Their main competency is not to do transitions, to sell, to market, or whatever. So which is why also I guess accessing the marketplace was also very important for you. This is something we try to, when we work with new customers, making them see the benefits, that you don't have to even worry about procurement for those translators. You can work through the platform to pay those translators, so there's no additional cost for you. So this also fits very well into your goals and into the overall experience that you have using Smartcat. So.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate in the marketplace that, there's so much information there. You can look at the linguists, average words that they translate per day. You can look at the cost per word. You can look at their reviews, the types of projects that they've completed, if they're a native speaker. So I love the amount of information that you can, go through and look at in the marketplace to really select a linguist that is going to understand the content that you're trying to translate and that has a good track record too.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Coleman, you wanted to
So
talk about AI.
yeah, yeah. So the what I'm hearing here and what we've heard in the previous webinar is with AI, you can do a few things. You can do existing things much more efficiently and with higher quality and at lower cost. And then also, this does allow you to do entirely new things. And I would love to touch on that a little bit, and especially if there's some measurement that can be attributed to that. So an example of doing new things is making content available in more languages, or in your case, where safety is such a critical factor, I'm wondering if there's any associated or measurable outcomes in that realm. And I ask this because, again, for the people who have joined the webinar, it's great to do an alternative too when you're building out your business model in your case for transformation, but especially when it relates to AI and transformation, we've seen management and teams are looking for, like, how do we take that next leap beyond just doing things better, but truly making that transformation to making our business just work better. So for you, Alison, are there some specific metrics that you looked towards that were just beyond doing business as usual? And what have the results been? Or are they measurable at this point?
So we definitely have seen increased employee engagement. So we had sites where employees just were not actively being, actively training. And now they are completing the training materials. So we definitely have seen an increased employee engagement. We also, one of our teams is producing work instructions in translated content. So that's another way that we're able to get information to employees. So to speak to increased employee engagement, yes, absolutely.
Mhm. And you talked about when we talk about digital transformation, Alison, you mentioned that you guys started to look also at the Smartcat content creation option, which is using AI not just to basically translate, but also to create new content. So is that also becoming part of the digital transformation path for your company as well, to use AI more to create new content, not just to translate existing content?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that, again, the advantage of the AI in that instance, and especially with the course creation tool, is really just giving you a head start. You're not starting from scratch. So it provides such a great foundation. And I love the video elements that are included with that tool too. I haven't gotten a chance to take a really deep dive into it yet, but just initially exploring it, it's really exciting. I appreciated too that it's founded in good educational pedagogy. So it automatically has learning objectives. The learning objectives are developed using, recognized grounded methodologies. Um, sorry. So I'm excited about using that tool and exploring it more for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so definitely, I mean, we noticed, like, for us, Smartcat, of course, we started with translation. AI translation was really our main component, but then the idea was to also, we see so much synergy with content creation between, like, because people want to be able to reuse their content, but not just for translation, but also to create new content. And this is really what we're trying to do also with this content creation option, So definitely, I look forward to get some feedback from you once you've had a chance to work with our tool. This I think could be very helpful for our team as well. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Coleman, I think we reaching the end of the
Yeah. If
conversation.
there's any questions that people have, please drop them in the Q&A now, and we would love to answer those. We will share the recording of this webinar, so look for that in your inbox in a few days, along with, as I said, the transcript of the Q&A. If you would like to schedule a one-on-one meeting and learn more about Smartcat, feel free to scan this QR code and we can get that meeting set up. So I'll just hold for a moment, see if there's any other questions coming in. I don't see any questions, but I would love to just get your sentiment before you leave. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, hearts, whatever you want within chat to let us know how you felt about this webinar. And again, thank you, Alison, so much for taking the time out of your day to join us and share how Integrated Power Services has been able to go through this transformation process and hopefully inspire some of the other people on the call to take the leap.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. We're going to wrap it up. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thanks.